Alrighty, and we're on.
What's up?
So I've got Johnny Barra Benavides here with me today.
Yes, sir.
We're sitting in Legends Gym here for those of you who are tuning in and watching the video element. But I guess, you know, for people that don't know you, you're Josh Culibao, striking coach.
Yep.
You got a few other fighters in the stable as well.
Yep.
And you also competed kickboxing.
Yeah, when I was younger, back in Sweden.
In Sweden, yeah, kickboxing Muay Thai, was it?
Yep.
Yep.
Mixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in Australia for?
I've been here since 2011.
2011. So that's
what's that? 12 years? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so with regards to, we were talking about this just before we literally pushed the start button, but with regards to the surname, so that you got two surnames, Barra Benavides.
Yeah.
And so so the
Barra is dad and
Yep.
Benavides for my mum. So South Americans, that's how they do it. So you got your father's first and then your mother's surname.
Oh, so do they always link those two surnames together?
Yep.
So then what happens when you get married and have kids then? Does it become Barra Benavides and then the next, or?
No, I got to choose one.
Okay. So let's probably wind it back a little bit. So I think, you know, it's probably a good idea to sort of start with where it all began. So you mentioned Sweden.
Yep.
So did you actually grow up in Sweden?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Gothenburg. Well, I lived on and off from Chile and Sweden since I was born, because I grew up with my grandma. So
okay,
and she's a diabetic. So the story starts with she used to live in Sweden for 6 months. She'd work a little bit, get some money, and then we'll go back to Chile for 6 months.
Okay.
So I would go to school in Sweden, go to school in Chile.
Wait. So okay, were you born in Chile or born in Sweden?
I was born in Sweden.
You were born in Sweden.
Yeah.
So then, where were your parents? So how come you were living with your grandma?
My parents were, doing their thing, man. Just off on their own life and worried about themselves, I guess.
Okay.
And they left me with my grandparents. Well, not my grandparents, my grandmother.
Okay. And was that your grandma on your mum's side or your dad's side?
Yep, mum's side.
On your mum's side.
Yep.
So, so your parents aren't together now, right?
No.
Okay. So, I'm a little bit curious about this because, you know, for you growing up, like, how did that make you feel? Because obviously you're living with your grandma, and I know that would actually help you form a really good relationship with her.
Yeah.
But then, did you ever wonder about, you know, why your parents like left you, or?
Yeah, I kind of. It made me grow up quick, right? So I had an idea what they were doing already, partying and, you know, being off the charts. So my grandma gave me a lot of love, and when we used to go to Chile, my grandfather was there, so he was my father figure there. So that helped me a lot to stay intact with myself, you know, and I go off the charts a little bit. But obviously I was always wondering where they were, why they weren't there. You know what I mean?
Did you have any like sort of resentment towards them for it?
Yeah. I hated my parents.
Yeah.
I never wanted to talk to them, you know?
Yeah.
But, it was a bit of a toxic thing.
Mm. And what about like now? Is it still like that now? Or?
No. We've got a good relationship. It was what you were talking about before. It was the hardest thing is to forgive, right? Yeah. And that's what I had to do with both my parents. Mm. And now we speak. We got a good relationship.
Okay, so I guess, you know, for context, right? So I was telling Johnny just before we started that, you know, for me, I actually had a fairly fractured relationship with my dad for a long time. You know, he made some mistakes towards my mum, and, you know, my mum had some mental health issues, not just purely related to that, but obviously some other things. She had a car accident and some other things. And so for the longest time, you know, I had this, you know, when you're young, you want to blame someone, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, that was me as well, right? And I used to blame my dad and hold all this resentment towards him until I was telling him, like, Johnny, that I had one day, like, I just had this dream, and it was literally like, it felt like it was like a flick to switch, right? Yeah. I had this dream that, you know, I realized that the only person that it was hurting was me. Yeah. And then I woke up the next day and I was like, you know what, I don't actually hate my dad. I don't resent him anymore. Yeah. You know, I can't forget what he's done. But I can sort of, you know, just appreciate that it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And I don't need to hate him for it, and I can just move on and actually have some form of a relationship with him. So for you, with your parents, like, I guess, you know, I know we're probably going to jump forward quite a lot here, but and we'll come back. But I'm just curious, like, what was that tipping point for you? Like, how did it start? How did you like sort of reestablish that relationship with your parents?
I think it went back to thinking about myself, thinking about my struggles and what I went through and all the trauma I got growing up. And putting it back to how they grew up as well. You see, like they were political refugees. They went through war and all that stuff. So I kind of felt for them. You know, they were unstable, traumatized, single parent household, grandmother working 2-3 jobs. So basically, my mum and aunties, uncles, they had to grow up by themselves. You know, so I was like, no wonder they treated me the way they treated me. They couldn't even
look after themselves.
Yeah, so it was back to that, right? And also my mum changing. Well, my mum used to drink a lot, so she stopped drinking. So for me, it was like, you know what? Everyone deserves a second chance. I got one.
Yeah.
One, I'll give it back to them, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what the turning point was for me. Putting myself in their shoes, basically.
Yeah.
You
so
know?
you're trying to understand what their life might have been like,
because I went through a lot. So then I was like, no wonder. I've heard a lot of people through the process of me being traumatized, you know. I've put a lot of people through hell. So I went back and I was like, that was my tipping point. I was like, damn, wow, my parents went through 3 times harder than me, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, that was my understanding.
And isn't it, I think that's like such a amazing thing, because, you know, when you go through that and you can actually get over the resentment part of it, you know, it actually teaches you a valuable lesson in terms of like how you want to live your own life.
100%.
Right? Like, you know, you mentioned you've hurt people in the past, but now it's like, I'm sure your attitude towards relationships now is probably very different.
Yeah, for sure. Man, for me, it's a full-time job, having good relationships, because, you know, you basically can't put your trauma onto others, you know, so it's a constant work for me, you know, but coaching helps me a lot. It's actually my place of peace.
Yeah, it's therapy for you.
Yeah, it is, and I get to deal with different people and different attitudes, different, you know, help some boys with their mindset, and it helps me back.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's continue in terms of like, you know, the journey growing up. So you'd spend 6 months in Sweden, 6 months in Chile.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of like culture and all those things, right? Like the places feel very different. The weather would be very different.
Yeah, everything.
Everything. How did you cope with that? Like, I guess.
Man, I get that question asked a lot, and I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
You know, when people don't know, they don't know. So for me, it was like, yeah, sweet. Go to Chile, see my mates there, go to school. You know, the only thing that I realized was that Chile was way rougher.
Yeah, okay. In what sense? Like, it's just
like the streets were rougher, the kids were rougher, the schools were rough, their teachers were rough. Like, everything was, you know, another dynamic to Sweden. Where in Sweden it was more playful, go play soccer. Chile, you had to be on guard. You were fighting every day. People were trying to bully you every day, take your things, and so Chile made me grow up really quick.
Did you feel like a bit of an outcast? You know, because
yeah, they used to call me Aleman. Aleman means German. And I used to get angry because I'm like, I'm not German, I'm Swedish. Yeah, you know, but that was my nickname, Aleman. There's the German there, and I was like, got into so many fights because of that. Yeah.
And then what about in Sweden? Like, did that make you a bit of an outcast as well? Because
no, he didn't, because in Chile there was a big Chilean community. And all my mates, I went to primary school with them. I know my mates since we were babies, so it was like, oh, you're back, you know?
Yeah.
So it was cool. Sweden was cool.
Well, did it make it hard from a schooling perspective?
Yeah. I never finished anything. Yeah. Never finished. And I don't think I finished year 1, year 2, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So then you always, like, you know, basically when you go to school, you just probably don't even try, right? Because it's like you feel like you're so behind you can't catch up. Is that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And the schooling systems were so different in Chile compared to Sweden. It was like, it was so hard to adapt to when it came to that.
Yeah. How did your teachers describe you then? Like, do you remember what any of the report cards said? Or
Yeah, I was an angry kid.
Angry, yeah.
Yeah. I guess going through all that stuff, you know, and feeling neglected and all that. And kind of everyone knew that I lived with my grandparents, so people used to tease me like, oh, you don't have a dad, you don't have a mum. So for me, it was like, every time they said that, it was, all right,
there's a trigger point.
Let's get it on.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I was a really angry kid, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, very angry.
And I guess, so what age did you then find martial arts? Like,
So the funny thing was, my grandfather was, he was a security guard for politicians back before the war started in Chile.
Yep.
So he used to protect like vice presidents, and he used to know a martial art called Hapkido.
Hapkido, yep.
Yep.
Korean martial art.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the rule was, if I got into a fight, that I wasn't allowed to come back and cry, right? So what happened was, I used to get into fights and get beat, and he used to take me into his room and be like, show me what they did to you. And I would show him, and he's like, all right, do it again. Boom. And then he was like, all right, you got to do this. All right, you try it now. Boom.
Yep.
All right, get back out there. And he used to sometimes take me there. Like, but the rule was I had to get back out there and survive,
Yeah.
Because he's like, in Chile, it's not like Sweden. If you let them do that to you, then
they own you for life.
You'll always be that kid,
Yeah.
So that's where my love for martial arts started, with him.
Yeah.
As a little kid.
Okay. So then, how long did you, like, I guess, when you're going back and forth 6 months, like, did that continue all the way through school, or did only up until a certain age?
Till I was 6 years old, I think.
Yeah.
Then I lived in Chile till I was 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. So from 6 to 10, you're basically all in Chile.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when, I lived. So I lived there. My auntie moved from Sweden, and I was staying with my grandmother, my auntie, my grandfather, and my auntie's boyfriend.
Mm.
But then everyone went back to Sweden, and they left me with my auntie's boyfriend.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And my grandfather had to work in another state, so I basically grew up with him.
Okay.
For those years.
What was your relationship like with him?
He man, awesome.
Yeah.
He was a street dude from the beginning. Involved in a bit of gangs here and there when he was younger.
Mm.
He stopped it. But he used to teach me everything, man. Like, he never hid anything from me. So he would teach me about drugs, about violence and why. And he used to tell me, I want to teach you this so you, when you come across it, that you're not new to it and you don't feel like you need to do it.
Mm.
Do you see what I mean?
Mm.
So he taught me a lot of things, taught me how to play soccer, taught me how to do homework.
Mm.
So he really took care of me, man. He really built me.
Isn't that amazing? Like, he's your auntie's boyfriend. Like, there's no blood relation at all.
Yeah, and they broke up.
And they broke up.
Yeah, that's why she left.
And he's still happy to look after you.
Yeah, and that's, I don't understand, man. That was like a blessing for me because, she left and they broke up, and he's like, he always tells me now, he's like, I don't know how they left you there.
Mm.
But he felt like he couldn't leave me.
Yeah.
He's like, I couldn't leave you, man. Because I got attached to him.
Yeah.
So I was always with him. He used to go to parties, I'll be there. And they used to call him Chino, so he looked a bit Chinese.
Yeah.
So they used to call him Chino. In Spanish means Chinese. And they used to call me Chino Chico, so little Chinese.
Yeah.
So it was Chinese and little Chinese. So, but he used to say I was his son.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, this is my son,
Yeah.
Johnny. So I was like, yeah, man.
And like Chileans, are they generally religious? Is that
Not my family, no.
not your family? But
No.
because I would have thought, like, a lot of those South American cultures are very quite religious in terms of, like,
a lot of people that went through that struggle, that war, I think they kind of lost hope on that, because of what they went through.
Yeah.
Some of my family are, but yeah, my grandfather was, no.
Yeah.
My grandmother was on the low.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't preached upon,
Yeah. So then, so from 6 to 10, you were in Chile.
Chile.
And then what happened after that?
So long story, man. So my dad that's here, he's been here for 30 years.
Mm.
So he left when I was a kid. So he went and his wife went and picked me up and brought me here when I was 10.
Okay.
So I lived here from 10 to 12, I think. 12 and a half, 13 years old.
Yeah.
went to school here. I went to Bellman High.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I know a few boys here and stuff like that. But no, they were great to me, man.
Yep.
They were great. They were a bit more. It was strict. That was hard for me.
Yeah.
I think that's why I had a hard time. But now when I look back, I'm so thankful they were.
That they were strict.
And they really cared for me. They actually cared for me.
Yeah. You know, I always have this this thought in terms of structure, right? Like, you know, a lot of people get you get to this point in life where you feel constrained by structure, right? But the problem is that without any structure, you can't actually develop and grow, right? Yeah. So if you use martial arts as the example, right? If you can't do the basics, the fundamentals, right? Imagine if there was no structure, right? You never had to show anybody how to do a jab correctly, or how to move, or how to step, you know, or how to breathe, right?
It shows in chaos.
It's just absolutely, it'll be anarchy, right? And so there's like people that are all in on this idea of anarchy, but the problem is that you can't develop, or the development is going to be a lot slower because all you're doing then is you're just learning by being in the fire, right? And
some people want to learn the way they want to learn, and sometimes that's not life. You know, sometimes you have to follow things that you don't want to do to learn. You understand?
To develop, right?
Yeah.
And also, I think it gives you an appreciation for what is required.
100%.
Right. I always talk about the idea. They call it steps to conscious competence. Right. So there's 4 steps in this, and the first step is that before you start anything, you're unconsciously incompetent. Right. Yeah. You don't know what you don't know. Right. It's like the first time you walk into any martial arts place, or even the first time when you go into school, you don't know what to expect. You don't actually know what you don't know. Maybe you don't know the alphabet. You don't know the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Right. And then through turning up, you realize that, hey, there's actually a lot that I don't know here, right? And that's where you become consciously incompetent. You go, man, I'm a fucking idiot. I don't know anything, right? And then, you know, hopefully that then gets you a little bit, you know, excited to then keep going and keep going and keep going. And then you get to this stage where it's like, okay, you're starting to do the right things, but you don't actually, you know, you're just doing it because it's being ingrained in you from whether it's your teachers or your coaches or whatever. And you start doing the right things and you start to get some success, but you're unconsciously competent. You're doing it, but you don't really know exactly why it's working. But you're just like, oh, I'm so excited, it's working.
100%.
Right? And then, you know, if you continue, you know, you get to this point where it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know the reactions that it's going to get. And this is why I'm doing it. You get to this stage of conscious competence.
Yes.
Right? And I always find this to be a really funny thing because, you know, especially in the martial arts world, right? Like when people analyze things, some people are like, oh, you know, like when I was doing this, I wasn't actually thinking about doing that, right? So they're actually operating under unconscious competence, right? But to the analyst, the person that's watching from the outside, they go, oh, this is actually something that they're doing repeatedly, which is yielding good success, right? So even though the person that was physically doing it may be unconsciously competent in doing it, the person that's analyzing can actually go and take that and go, oh, okay, I can now implement that with other fighters.
Yeah, for sure.
For them to know, okay, they're doing it and actually thinking about what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing that I think is, I think that, you know, you can almost say that's when people enter that flow state.
For sure.
You know,
and it's also what I've noticed. It's the chemistry you have with your fighter as well. It's communication. It's letting them understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
You see, like always pointing things out. You see that? See that move right there? Yep. Oh, okay, yeah. All right, now we're gonna do this. So it's also like seeing things that they do and making sure that you pinpoint it, and you're like, all right, we're gonna speak about that.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like you said, some people just do things naturally.
Yep.
Do you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And this is the thing though, like, you know, when you do things naturally, when you come up against that scenario where somebody's prepared, like they're prepared for your tactic that you do unconsciously.
Yeah.
And you're eating shit. And you go, why the fuck can't I do anything about it? It's because, you're not consciously competent. You're doing it unconsciously. See, if you're doing it unconsciously, you don't know how to actually make a change.
100%.
To then adjust and go to the next layer. So that's one of the things that I really love about martial arts, and, you know, why I
that's what I love about coaching.
Yeah. You get to this stage where you're like consciously competent, trying to drive this conscious competence into everyone.
For sure. Yeah. And that's a chemistry we've been getting with the boys, man.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So 10 to 12, you know, you're in Australia. How did you find schooling here? Because that would have been a total change as well.
Yeah, another total change, man. Yeah, back then it was rough, man.
Yeah.
To be honest. Like school, it was a bit like Chile, man. It was rough. There was boys from all areas. You had Balmain boys, Drummoyne, Glebe, Redfern. And yeah, man, it was just like a little jungle there. And but I was adapted to that, so I found that fun. You know.
And what was your English like at that point? Because Chile,
I had
you
to
were
go
speaking
to
Spanish, right?
I had to go to like a little course before.
Oh wow!
But I've always known how to speak English. I just didn't have the accent.
Yeah.
I just had to learn the accent, really.
Yeah, wow.
So I was always a kid out there, so I was never afraid of being out there trying things. So you know, so I just learnt it quick. I don't even remember how I learnt it.
So from a language perspective, you can probably speak Swedish, Spanish,
and
English.
Yep.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's I think, you know, when you're in those environments, like kids, you know, they absorb everything, right?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything. So like the way I learned how to speak Spanish was because I grew up with my grandma, and excuse me, when I used to go to school in Sweden, I'll be speaking Swedish and then come home and try and speak Swedish to my grandma.
Yeah.
And she would be like, look, I don't speak that stuff. We don't speak Swedish here. So obviously I just had to speak Spanish the whole time. And then when I was in Chile, no one speaks nothing but Spanish.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just learnt it naturally, I guess.
Yeah. Did it make for some interesting conversations where it's like you don't have the words in one language, so you...
Yeah. Oh, I speak fluent in all of them.
Yeah.
It's weird, but I speak fluent in Swedish. Well, Swedish is my first language, so yeah, and Spanish. So can read and write in it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a massive skill. It's a very underrated thing. Like, I think most people take languages for granted until you actually have to use them and you go, oh, shit, like there's something to this.
Yeah, like Spanish is such a broad language compared to English.
Yeah. It's very emotive as well, right? Like,
yeah.
You know,
So one thing might mean so many things. You know, it's more expressive too.
Yeah.
It's more expression. It's an emotional language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what happened after you were here for a couple of years? So 10 to 12 you were here, and then where did you go?
I went back to Sweden. That's when my mum wanted to take care of me.
Okay.
I got there and I just got back. It was chaos. Alcohol. Yeah, they were just drinking the whole time.
Your mum was drinking the whole time?
With her partner, partying, bit of alcoholics, toxic people in the house. And yeah, man, that's when I started drinking at a really early age, you know. So I got into that on the street all the time, you know, back to no rules.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed it in the beginning because I was like, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
But then the longer it went, I was like, fuck, what am I doing here, man? It's killing me. Yeah. You know? So yeah, I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
And
it was a hard time.
So I guess, you know, was it just because you were in that environment where your mum and her partner are drinking that you were just like, I'll just try it? Or did they encourage it? Or
yeah, it was encouraged by everyone around me.
Wow.
So, come on, drink. I was like, nah, I don't want to drink. And then, boom, I remember, it's so weird. I remember having the first sip of this beer.
Yep.
I still remember the beer. And boom, that's it. I liked it.
You liked it, you were hooked.
Boom, hooked.
Yep.
We were drinking at 13, man.
Yeah.
Buying cases, and my house was a party house.
Wow.
All the boys used to come party. Like, we were partying since kids, man. You know, being around messed up people. Yeah, it was bad.
So, how did you start to turn that around? Like, I guess what happened in your life for then?
I found boxing.
Okay.
So it was so funny. My little sister was watching TV while my parents were partying, actually, and she's like, oh, come watch this movie. She was a little kid. I was like, what movie is that? She's like, oh, look, it's fighting. I was like, oh, what? I went, and it was Rocky.
Ah, yep.
It was the one where he's versing Drago.
Victor Drago.
And it was the scene where he's inside that when he's in the snow training. And he's training, and then he's inside, and he's like sweaty, and he's pushing weights, and he's shadow boxing, and I was like, fuck. I went to the boxing gym the next day. Yeah. Straight away, I was like, I want to do that. I went to the boxing gym the next day. I was there, bro.
Yep.
Rocked up, and they're like, I had no money, nothing. I was like, Like, you got to pay.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, can I just try it? And they're like, yeah, sweet, come try it.
Yep.
Got hooked.
So then how did you make that work? Like, did you have did the trainer just take you in, or what happened?
Yeah, so there was a program at a school called it was called Passion. So it was the school I went to, they gave you a few passions. So like you could choose graffiti, skateboarding, music, and there was boxing involved. And I was like, no way. So I chose the boxing program.
Yeah.
But the thing was that I was just going to the boxing program, not going to school.
Okay.
So I was going to boxing, going back home, going back to the gym, you know. So that's how it started, yeah.
Yep. So who was your first boxing coach? Like, what was his name?
There were two. His name was Tommy, this Swedish guy, and Sebi, this African guy. They were the main, not just my coach, they were the main guys there. So that gym was the best amateur boxing gym in Sweden for many, many years.
Yeah.
Many years. Loads of fighters and guns. So for me, it was like, yeah, there's a spot.
So then, do you remember your first experience sparring? Like, what?
Yeah. Oh, it was taunting. I thought about it. I was thinking about it the whole day. I was so nervous. But then I just loved it.
Yeah.
It was it was a tough gym, but the sparring was very controlled. You know, there was always a coach watching and telling you, all right, slow that down. You know, all right, pull power back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it grew your confidence instead of taking your confidence. But I wasn't allowed to spar for 6 months, bro.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, training every day.
Yeah.
Every day training. And they don't let you spar till 6 months to a year. But then when you're sparring, like you're
almost there already. You've got some fundamentals.
Yeah, that's right.
What was I guess for them, you know, the idea behind waiting the 6 months, like what sort of a baseline were they looking for? So
everything. So the first 3 months, I think it was, what I remember, it was all conditioning, physical conditioning. You being able to run 10Ks, you being able to shadow your skipping, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, basic weight training, bag drills, you know your footwork. And then they would see and be like, all right. Hand defense. That was a big thing back in Europe. Hand defense.
What, just being responsible with your guard, or actually
block,
parrying?
Block, parry, slips.
Yep.
You know, catching. So yeah, they would look at you for a long time. But then you see kids when they were sparring, they looked like they had 10 fights. They were seasoned. Yeah. You know, I had a bit of a harder time. I wasn't as great as in boxing because I was a bit of a bigger kid. And all the other kids were just super light.
Yeah.
Fast. Yeah. Weapons. Weapons.
So then, okay, so when you found boxing, like, was it overnight that you basically said, okay, I'm going to do this, I don't want to drink anymore? Or, yeah.
That's what stopped me. And then not long after that, I found kickboxing. So I found kickboxing at 14. 14. Yeah. I found kickboxing. And I was just around strong people, strong-minded people. Yeah.
When you say strong-minded, like what in what sense? Like how did
they would look down upon people that were doing what my surroundings were doing. Be like, look at them.
Waste their lives.
Scrawny, unhealthy. Yeah. They think they're cool. They think they're tough. They're none of that. Yeah. You go to the gym and you see strong, tough, healthy people and good people as well. They care for you for real, you know? Yeah. So I was like, I want to be like that. Yep. I want to get out of this environment. Yeah. So that took me out.
So what was the culture like in the kickboxing gym? Was it very different to the boxing gym, or?
Yeah, it was tougher.
A lot tougher.
Yeah. Yeah. Tougher, more militant. You weren't allowed to speak. You had to wear your uniform, your shorts. You had to tuck in your T-shirt. You had to cut your nails. You had to smell good. You had to have a good haircut. Yeah, everything, absolutely everything. the way that he would form us before the class, so like stand in front of him, it was in levels. So like you knew your place, and everyone had different chores. So like I had to start cleaning the gym and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you think that sort of discipline obviously is something that you longed for, right? Like after coming out of Australia where you had a bit of a stricter environment, you know, you go back to Sweden, suddenly it's like, oh yeah, I can do whatever I want, and then realizing, oh, it's actually not that great being able to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right?
And then in the gym. But I took it. I loved it. I loved all that. Because I was like, there's no way I'm going back to that shit environment. So I'm willing to go through anything my coach says.
Yeah.
If he tells me to jump, I'll ask how high.
Yeah. And were you channeling, I guess, like, and I'm just speaking for myself here as well, because, you know, when I found martial arts, like I used to channel any negative energy I had into martial arts, right?
I did, but I was found out real quick.
Yeah.
And realized that wasn't going to take me anywhere, because there were people that doesn't matter how angry you were, how much anger you channeled, they were tougher, they were quicker, they were seasoned. So for me, it was it humbled me a lot, and it made me calmer. I became real calm. Like now, like I'm chilled.
Yep.
Made me real chilled and made me focus on what I had to do to be like them. You know.
Yep.
So yeah, it gave me it brought me back to earth to be like, you know what? All right, it's time to do what they're doing.
Yep. And I guess, you know, for you at that age, right? Like, and also going back to growing up, like, did you have any idols? Like, was there anybody that you sort of looked up to? And I'm just sort of curious, you know, between those different stages of being, you know, between Sweden and Chile, and then in Chile, and then back to Australia, then back to Sweden. Like, I guess, did you ever think about, you know, oh, I want to be like this person, or I want to be like that person? Was there people that you were trying to emulate, or?
For me, because of that lifestyle where I was everywhere and I had people everywhere, it was like, for me, it was in the present. Whoever was there for me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be like my coach. Not like him, I wanted to impress him. So, you know, so that kept me coming back all the time. So for me, I was like, I want to be like him. You know, he was Chilean as well, South American.
Oh, okay.
He was tough, very respectful, but a hard man. Had a family, took care of his family. You know, so for me it was like, I want to be like him.
Yeah.
So he was my idol.
Yep. And then what was your relationship? How would you describe your relationship with him?
Beautiful, man. He used to see me on the streets crying, and because I would be like, you know, having my parents being so destructive, and sometimes I couldn't I couldn't take it. So I'd be on the streets crying, and he would see me and be like, bro, what's wrong with you? I was like, fuck, this happened. Come, man. Come to my house. You hungry? Yeah, bro, I'm starving. All right, sweet. I'll cook. So he's like, here, you got a bed here, bro. Sleep on this bed.
Yeah, wow.
Boom. Then he'll be like, the rule was, if you're in my house, we got to sit down and watch some K1. and that's how I learned how to coach. He would sit me down and be like, you see that move right there? What we did yesterday? Look, boom, he's doing it now. So that my relationship with him was like that. He was always trying to teach me something.
Yeah.
And he was a street dude himself. He was a former gang member.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So he knew all about it.
Yep. So then was he sort of, you know, intent on obviously keeping you out of that side of life?
Yeah, yeah. Because obviously when I was growing up, there was a lot of gangs around me, in my house, you know, in my building. So obviously when I was 15, I was hanging around people that were trying to be gang members, and having that environment around me, I sort of wanted to levitate to that. And he was a hard gang member too. So, and he used to always tell me, he's like, man, this life's shit, man. He's like, I got to worry about everything. Yeah. Look behind my shoulder. Yep. I don't trust my mates. So he was always putting that into me. And then I was like, all right, sweet. Just kickboxing, that's it.
Yeah.
Stop drinking. Stop partying. Yeah.
So do you remember, you know, back then, I guess, like, did you have a goal in terms of like, you know,
man. Not really a goal. I just wanted to do my best the whole time. Like now, I don't really have a goal now.
Yeah.
I just every day I try to do what I do, you know.
Yep.
Stay put, stay focused, and yeah, it works out like that. No expectation.
No expectation. That's actually, you know, I think Josh and I we talked about that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I heard that.
Yeah, and it's you know, when you have these great expectations out of things and things don't live up to those expectations.
Sure.
You know, you sort of almost feel ungrateful for
sure
for how it's all sort of panned out.
100%. And it's like you're doing it yourself, so it's like who cares what other people have on you? It's like he said, he's like, people love you anyway, so it's like, man, if you lose, who cares? Like, people love you the same. Like, this is not everything.
Yeah.
Fighting and all this stuff, yeah, it's beautiful and it can take you places, but it's not everything, bro.
Yeah.
There's more to it.
Yeah.
There's more to life than just, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, people get caught up in that, right? And they're you know, unfortunately, when you experience the highs that fighting can bring, you know, for some people, like they never find something new to channel that energy towards.
100%.
And without that, it's like you're trying to, it's like a book that never ends. You know, like if you've written this beautiful chapter and you've got a beautiful ending to the chapter, then it's like, oh, just add a little bit more. And then
100%.
it's like, it's lost its impact because you've let it keep going, you know? And that's where I think it's beautiful when you have like fighters like, you know, GSP or Khabib that, you know, exit their careers on a high, you know, and like, if anything, like, yes, it leaves everybody going, oh, you know, what else? You know, they want more.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's the beauty of it, is that you want more, but you know you can't have it. So all you can do is just relive those beautiful moments and the experiences, you know, that came from that.
100%. I think also it's like, obviously you got to put your life into it as a fighter, but you always got to, you know, you keep that for the gym, for the cage, for the ring, and then you got to build something outside of that. Can't just be all these. Because otherwise, like, I had a big problem with that. I would coach and go to fights and boom, then I would be at home and I got nothing. I'm just sitting there feeling like, fuck, I feel like nothing. Because I'm not at the gym.
Yep.
You know? And that reflected on my relationships, on how I treated other people, because you feel empty without doing it. Do you see?
Yeah.
So that's something that I've been working for a bit now.
Yeah.
Just working on myself and having that separation.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, way better. Way better.
Isn't it interesting? Like, I think, you know, everybody goes through this. And I think anybody who is like critical of themselves or self-aware, you almost feel like you have this imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you could have the best athlete in the world, but you still feel like you're a fraud.
Bro, I get it I get it all the time.
Yeah.
All the time I'm like, I'm actually shit. And then I'm like, I even tell my girlfriend, I'm like, man, I feel like such a shit trainer. Like, especially if one of the boys loses, it's like I take that on board. Like, I'm like, wow, like it affects me. That's something I'm trying to work on now. I go see someone for help and stuff like that, and that was something I really expressed to him. He's like, what's holding you back sometimes? I'm like, you know what? When the boys lose, it's like I take it so hard.
It's really personal.
Yeah, I feel like I'm crap.
Yeah.
Like I feel like giving up on this.
Yeah.
You know? But then, obviously, he helps me work through it and, you know.
Out of curiosity, like, what's some of the advice that he gives you to try and help work you through it?
It's done. Move on. You know? It's already done. Well, you can't fix anything. You can fix what you can do ahead of it.
Yep.
You can fix next fight.
Yep.
Focus on that.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yep.
Focus on rebuilding your fighter mentally, physically, technically, and move on. Keep moving, you know? And that would, like, oh, you know, it's easy to say. Like, it's not the greatest advice. It's not. But it's great advice, you know?
Yeah, I think you know, we all go through these stages of, like, you know, we're constantly up and down, right? Life isn't just like this, you know, one level. You know, we go through these, peaks and troughs, right? And then when you're in your peaks, you're like, oh, this is fucking amazing. The best feeling in the world. It'll never end. And then 2 minutes later, you're down in the dumps. Like,
I heard a saying that it says, in life, you're either walking into shit or walking out of it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Do you know? Like, and I was like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I often, the analogy I like to use is like, I sort of view life in thirds, or every moment I view in thirds, right? There's the moment before the actual moment has happened, right? And you can call that the past. There's the present, which, you know, what we're physically doing now, this is the present. And then there's the future where it's like we're thinking about, okay, what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is when you actually think about the past, a lot of the times you're actually experiencing regret, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Most of the times when people think of the past, like if you reflect on a happy memory, you literally probably only spend 5 to 10 seconds thinking about, oh yeah, that was a beautiful time in my life. And then you moved on, right? And so that happiness of that experience in history of the past is like so fleeting, right? But then you might have something that just gnaws at you endlessly because it's like, fuck, I shouldn't have done this, or I shouldn't have told him that, or whatever the case may be. And you can get stuck in this loop of regret where it's like, oh, all I need to do, if I only change this one thing, then life would be different. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the trap of focusing or allowing your mind to like dwell on the past. And then, you know, when you really think about the future, like generally it's either you're excited about something or you're anxious.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But usually when it's excitement, like again, you know, you can be excited for something and then the moment passes and it's like, okay, we're here now, away we go, right? But generally it's the anxiety that kills people.
100%. But I think as in society or even as fighters, it's all output. It's how much you can put out, how much you can train, how hard you push, how hard you fight, how many fights do you have. It's all output. No wonder when there's no fights, we feel like nothing. It's because we never we never have the time to put back into us. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that's what kills a lot of people, man. It's too much output. The society is all about what you see. Like for example, like when Josh wins, first question is what's next?
Yep.
It's like these kids don't even get to enjoy what they just did. He just fought in front of the whole world, smashed this guy, and that's a question?
Yeah.
Like, what's next? Like, fuck, like...
Yeah. Well, I think you see it in every athlete's mentality, you know, even all the amateurs, like it's basically whether you win or lose, it's on to the next.
That's why people don't feel good enough. Because even in society, like it's you never get to enjoy that moment. It's like, all right, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. So
I think that's part of what allows us to improve so fast, though.
For sure.
You know, because we have this mentality that it's never enough, right? Like, and that goes back to that sort of imposter syndrome that you need to continually keep proving yourself, you know, and you could have proved it many times over, but then it's like you almost feel like a dickhead if you rest on those laurels.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just sit there and be like, oh yeah, I did this. Like, so what? Like, the world's moved on. Like,
yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yeah, but I think you still need to sit down and be like, you know, fuck, I actually did this, you know, and put back into yourself. I don't know, go meditation, go swimming, go.
Yeah.
I don't know, take your dog out, spend some time with the family.
Yeah, a bit of self-reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think, you know, in those moments where I get, you know, in my troughs and my lows, you know, one of the things that I find always helps is spending that time to do my own self-reflection. You know, some people might say it's crazy, but you talk to yourself, you know, like.
You have to.
Yeah, you got to talk to yourself, or you write your thoughts down, right? Because a lot of the times, you know, you have these thoughts swirling in your head, and until you actually commit them to paper or you type them up or something like that, they're going round in a loop. It's just chasing its tail, and you can just lie in bed going,
yeah.
You keep going down this pathway, and it never ends.
Never ends, yeah.
But then, you know, you actually take a moment to then jot it down or type it up, and it's like, okay, it's out of my head now. Like, it can stop playing in my mind now, and I can actually, you know, get some rest or whatever and move on to the next thing. You know, I think that's a powerful thing. You know, it's almost like when you have that song that's playing in your ear, like an earworm. You know, you just hear you just keep hearing the chorus or whatever, that one line, and it's like, you know, I think they say if you sing that song through to the end, then at least you can like move on past it.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. So that's one of the tricks that to get past an earworm is like if you got just the hook in your ear, well, actually sing the song to its completion, and then it's like it'll leave you alone.
Right. That's a good one. I get that all the time. Especially the worst songs as well.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the experiences then, you know, for you competing. Do you remember, you know, I guess, are there any notable experiences that you reflect on?
Um, as in like in fights? Or?
Yeah. Like, I guess, was there a notable fight that
For me, fighting was really not to be the best fighter or nothing. It was about just having a better life. Just being around good people, you know, being in a good environment, being healthy, being able to defend myself if I had to. That was it. I never was the kid that I was like, I want to be a world champion. I want to be Bokao. I want to be Masato. You know, obviously I looked up to these fighters, but for me it was just just getting out of that crap, you know, and just feeling good, being happy.
Yep.
It was my happy place.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was actually very good at, if I lost, I moved on. That's something that I can give myself as a fighter. I lost, boom, doesn't matter. I'm back in the gym. It never really affected me.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking either I'll go back to the gym or I'll go back home, whereas
You don't want to go home?
where it's a big mess, you know. So for me, it was like, nah, man, all good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's actually such a positive thing, right? Because I think a lot of people struggle to get back on the horse, you know, like especially after a loss. I think a lot of people will then go and make up excuses for it.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to blame someone else rather than to take, you know, full accountability and go, okay, you know, I lost this not because of X, Y, and Z, but because the other person was just technically better than me at whatever position it may have been or at whatever sequence it may have been on the night.
Yeah.
Right? And I think when you start to really approach things from that aspect of like everything is a technical flaw, then I think you experience really great growth as a result of it.
100%.
You know, and I often tell this story about like how, you know, I won my first pancration fight, and not for any other reason than, you know, like my striking was okay, and I managed to get the guy with a bulldog choke and choked him out, and so I won my first fight. But then what happened after that, you know, I lost my next few pancration fights because I had it in my mind that, you know, I didn't need to change anything. I didn't need to get better at anything. I was already doing all the right things.
That's right.
Right? And then, you know, when somebody would beat me, let's say they beat me because, you know, they got me to the ground and I didn't have the ground game to get up back then. Right? And I'm stuck in this person on bottom, you know, them in my guard, but I can't really do anything with it. And they're stuck in my guard, but, you know, they're not really advancing, but they're on top and they're landing shots. So they won. So it's like, then you rationalize in your head, they only, you know, I didn't get submitted or I didn't get knocked out, so it's not really a loss. It's like, I look back and I go, I was such a dumbass.
Like the mentality, eh?
Yeah, and the mentality was just like such a egotistical sort of, you know, no accountability mindset.
For sure.
And I always say, like, that probably set back my martial arts development like 5 years, because it's like you spend all this time rationalizing your losses versus actually, you know, investing in how do you actually get technically better.
Yeah.
Right? And then on the flip side, you know, when you come out of that and you adjust your mindset, you actually grow you can grow so much significantly faster because you have this mindset now of extreme accountability in terms of your technical prowess. It's like, okay, everything is a technical problem. Doesn't matter if you could fight, you know, you could spar against somebody who's 10 kilos heavier than you in the gym, right? But they're not beating you just because they're 10 kilos heavier. They're beating you because they're technically better than you.
100%,
right?
Yeah.
Unless it's like just one shot which knocks you out. Okay, different story.
Yeah, different story.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you're always getting touched up by that person, then you know there's something technically wrong with what you're doing, and how do you adjust it? How do you fix it? And that's what you got to go back and analyze.
I think having a good set of good people around you, being real.
Yeah.
And being like very real.
Yeah.
You know, no, not sugarcoating. Being like, look, bro, that was shit.
Have you got a story that, you know, you don't have to mention names, but like, is there a time where you've had to like pull somebody up and just go, mate, like, if you're gonna fight like that, don't fight?
Yeah, like I've had people that I've pulled out for months.
Yeah.
Be like, nah, man, doesn't go like that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not afraid to do that with people. Or before even they fight, be like, bro, listen, I am putting you in, man. You have made no development since, you know, and a lot of it is ego, man. A lot of kids are great students and a lot of kids are good students. There's good and then there's great students, you know. My trainer used to explain to me students as school kids. So you have 3 types of school kids. You have the kid that goes to the classroom and sits in the classroom, does nothing. He's still in school. You get the kid that goes to class and he writes down what the teacher says. And then you got the third kid that writes down and goes home and practices. And that's usually the kid you sit and you try and copy from. Do you know. So he's like, that's what martial arts is. You have okay, good, and great. Do you know what I mean? You can just rock up, do your class, go home. You got the kid that's there, he's practicing after on the bag, and then you got the kid that's going home and waking up in the morning and doing that extra stuff. Who do you think is going to develop way more than all the others?
Yeah.
The kid that does that morning session before. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're just putting more time in.
That's all it is.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of people that just, I guess they're hobbyists, right? Like come in, they do their class. They don't want to think.
But they still want to fight. There's kids that come here, they first week and they're like, oh, I want to fight, bro. Can you? Nah, bro. Like, no. I said it to someone yesterday. I'm like, and he's good. Yeah. He's not bad. Like, he spars it. But I was like, it's not about that. It's like, bro, like, you got to earn it. It's an earning thing. Just because you're good doesn't mean anything. Like, I don't care about that. What about the other kids I've been training here for I've had kids for 2 years without fighting.
Wow.
But then when they fight, they put up a fight, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, how are they going to feel? How's the rest going to feel? Why should I treat you any differently? Yeah. It's like there's steps to it. And
even as a coach, right, like it's one of those things where the level is progressed so much.
So much.
Right? So that when you have this duty of care, that when you actually put somebody up, like I know it's easy to go and say, oh, look, you're coming up against another person who's debuting or whatever the case may be. But like they might be debuting in MMA as an example, but the guy's had 10 kickboxing fights. 100. He's done, 50 jiu-jitsu competitions. Like there's levels to it, right?
I always say to them, in a fight, I shouldn't be worried about you getting tired. I shouldn't be worried about you not moving your feet, keeping your hands up, faint. Like those are things that take time, you know? Yeah. So in a fight, that's critical. If I'm telling you to put your hands up in a fight, guess what? You're getting knocked out. So it's when we're fighting together as a team, it's like it's more tactical things. Like you see that move right there, do that. It's not move your feet, keep your hands up, close your mouth. Yeah. You know, like that's dangerous. Yeah. I'm putting that kid in danger. Like it's you've been at fights, like kids get slept. It's like I don't want my kid to go through that. Yeah. They're still amateurs.
And that's the thing, like when you have a bad loss like that, that can actually make you walk away from the sport too. Yeah. You know? Whether it could be a significant injury, so whether it's like a submission and something snapped, like that's career ending for most people.
And now, brother, everything's on social media. You're going to become a highlight reel. Yeah. Like you'll see that. Imagine, like you'll see yourself getting knocked out everywhere. Like it's hard, like harder than before. We never got to film. We never had social media. We never posted anything. Yeah. I wish sometimes we did because I would have a bit of history. But
yeah, same.
Like back in the day, it was nothing like that. So there was no pressure. Now there's so much pressure. The kids having a fight. They're on posters. They're on. Oh, they got it. It's like this big thing. No wonder when they lose, it's like a
massive downer.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword, right? Like because you don't have that opportunity to learn.
It's what you got to do now.
Yeah. But then at the same time, you got this opportunity to build this platform. Yeah. That one of the things that I'm always telling all the young up and comers is that you got to realize that fighting's only one part of the game now. You're also building this platform for yourself.
This machine.
Yeah, this machine behind you because, like, why do people want to get into the UFC or why do people want to get into one championship is because of the media machine that goes behind it, right? That now it's not just you producing your own content. There are professionals producing this high-quality content for you that you can then use to also promote yourself and build this platform that when your career in fighting is done, you've still got a platform to whether it's you're selling things or you go into coaching or you're going to do whatever you want. You've got this platform behind 100%. You, right? The platform
it's a business now.
Yeah, it's a business, right? The platform itself doesn't give you the money.
Yeah, no, like it's an industry.
It's an industry, right?
Back in the day, it was nothing. Yeah, like no one knew. Like I had people that never knew I fought. Yeah, like only the crazy people fought back in the day. Like all the rough. Everyone fights. Like there's all walks of life now. Yeah, but everyone that fought back in the day is usually people like me that grew up with the backgrounds we had, all my mates were the same. Yeah. Like everyone in the gym had rough lives. Yeah. No kid that went to school and he was not in the fight, Yeah. So, but now it's an industry, which is good. It's grown the sport. But like you said, the downfall's even bigger now.
Yeah.
There's so much to upkeep.
Yep. Yeah, and if you want to fight for purses, like fighting for purses is a shit way to make a living, right? Like let's be real, right?
So you gotta become a machine.
Yeah.
You know, you have to become your own little business and having people on board, and you know, even getting free food, like meals, like that's so important.
Yeah,
like,
nutrition.
It's a lot of money, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so I guess, you know, at what stage did you decide to come back to Australia then? So how did that come about?
So I came here for I was gonna come here for 6 months and just to I don't know, just chill out, have a look, and yeah, I came back and I fell in love. I was like, I'm not going back to the hole, man. And my trainer kept saying to me, he's like, man, go to Australia, man. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
And plus in my neighborhood, things were getting worse. A lot of gang violence, and so I was getting involved in a few things, and like I was bound to get in trouble. So he's like, man, get out of here.
Yeah.
He was going to leave as well.
Oh, wow.
So when I came here, I was like, wow, this is a good life.
Yeah. Did you go back to your dad's or what?
Yeah. I lasted, I don't know, 2 months maybe. Then I moved out.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how old were you when you came back?
21.
21 when you came back?
Yep.
Yep. And so then, so what were you doing at that time when you first came back to Australia? Did you find a job or?
Yeah, I started as a kitchen hand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I worked on a cruise company called Captain Cook Cruises.
Yep.
My dad was the head chef there.
Yep.
So yeah, just cutlery and plates.
Yep.
You know, just cleaning.
Yep.
Then I became a deckhand for that company.
Yep. Did you get to see some pretty cool places as a result?
Oh, it was just the one around the harbour.
Ah, okay.
Captain Cook Cruises. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they just do in the harbour, like, you know, dinners and things like that, right? Yeah. We got people working out in the background if you can hear those noises. But yeah, so, okay. So you were doing that for how long?
I did that for a few years, man.
Yep.
Yeah, 2-3 years. I was going to fight. I came here to fight, actually, but I broke my hand twice.
Oh, how'd you do that?
Sparring hard, man.
Yeah.
I went to this gym and they used to go so hard. And they used to put me against big guys.
Yep.
So I remember throwing an overhand and I hit the guy and he kind of ducked.
Yep.
I hit
him on the forehead?
Nah, on the side of the top of the head there, and just, boom, clean shot, broke my hand. First injury ever. Healed. Came back, sparred. They put me against the same guy. I was like, I don't want to spar this guy, man. They're like, no, this is the only guy you got to spar. Boom, broke it again.
Oh, wow.
Then I was like, yeah, I left the gym. I was like, I don't want to be around this. Hated the sport, maybe. That's when I left the sport for like 3 years. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I just went back to the boats with my dad. Yeah.
See, that's what I mean. Like an injury is what takes you out of it, right?
Yeah, and not just the injury, but the way I got injured, the lack of care, the lack of ego. Nah, spar him, it's all right. No, bro, he's 100 kilos. I'm 72 kilos. Nah, spar him. And then these guys trying to take my head off. Obviously, I got to survive, and
yeah, you got to go.
I got to go with him.
Yeah.
And so that made me kind of like, nah.
Isn't it? So, you know, I'm always in two minds about this because, you know, I train at a few different places and they're very different cultures. You know, I think it's one of those things. And what my recommendation to people that are always looking to go and train somewhere is to try a few different places and work out what's the culture that you like, right? Don't just pick something just because people say it's good or whatever the case may be, because you got to make sure that it fits with your personality as well. You know, that you vibe with the trainer, that you vibe with the culture of the people that are there. And so, you know, one of the places where I do my striking, you know, the guys are known to be a bit rough. And, you know, I just think it like, especially like, I guess that Muay Thai mindset, you know, where Muay Thai is like, it's about suffering, it's about pain. Yeah. You know? And of course there is a point where it's like, you know, you can't be so injured that you can't train, right? Like I always...
but there's tough and there's dumb.
Yeah.
There's stupidity.
True. True.
Do you know?
Yeah, and that was stupidity. Yeah, when you're going with more than a 30 kilo weight difference and no control. Yeah.
Toughness is good.
Yeah.
Technical toughness is good. Conditioning, you know, but knowing how to kick hard is one thing and just kicking someone is different. So it's like when I went to Thailand, it's hard sparring, but it's nice. It's good. Boom.
Yeah,
You
flowy.
hit it. Yeah, you hitting it clean. They hit you in the right spots. They're not kicking your knees. They're not kicking your balls. They're not hitting you with their toes on the face. You know what I mean? Like it's clean. It lets you work.
Yep.
So the big difference.
So then, out of curiosity, you know, when you left the sport after that and you went back to just working on the cruise boats, where was your mental space at? Like, were you a bit?
I
lost
wanted to become
no.
I wanted to become a captain.
Oh,
so
okay.
So I became a deckhand and I was working on boats. And my dad's like, "Why don't you become a captain?" And I was like, "Oh, you know what? You become a captain, drive a boat, you know." And then there was an offer on a PT course. And my dad woke me up one day and he took me there. He's like, "You're coming with me."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he took me. I signed up for the AIS. I did my PT course there and, never looked back. And I thank my dad for it. I was like, he just woke me up out of nowhere. He's like, "You know what? You don't belong where you're at. You need to be doing sports. So I signed you up for this course." I was like, "What? All right, get up. You're coming." I was like, "Nah, I don't want to go." "Nah, you're coming." Boom, took me there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit curious about that. Like, was there a specific reason why your dad felt that way? Or did he feel like, so did you talk to him about when you stopped kickboxing? Like, did he?
Yeah. My dad's always been, even though he wasn't around for a long time, he's obviously because of, he didn't want to, he was, but there's two sides and mothers always have more control. But he's always believed in me. Great guy, always pushed me, always thought that I could do this. So without him, I don't even know if I would have got back into coaching.
Yeah.
But he got me. He always believed in me. He's like, "You belong in sports.
Yep.
You've been a good sports kid since forever." So
wow.
He dragged me to the institution.
Wow. So when you did your AIS course, like, were you still working at that time? Yeah. So you're doing both, right?
Yeah. So it was, I think 3 days at the campus and then 2 days work.
Yeah.
And he was the head chef, so he could get me shifts that could match my course.
Okay.
So I was lucky like that.
Yeah. So were you eating good food at home as well because he's a chef, or did he not want to cook when he was at home?
I was eating good at the boat because he would be cooking.
Yeah.
So he would make me steak and veggies every day and we would eat. And he used to try and be a big machine as well, so loved the weights. So we just kept fit together and smashed it.
Yeah. So then after you finished your AIS course, did you leave the boat stuff altogether straight away, or it took a bit of time?
No, it took a bit of time. So I started working as a PT, just doing weights. Yeah, I left the boat for a while, but then I hated doing weights with people. And then I decided to go back to the boats and start holding pads.
What, on the boats?
No, I started at this gym in Glebe.
Oh, okay.
And it started going really good for me. So I said, all right, I'll have a set plan. When I can afford to leave the boats, I'll leave it and focus strictly on teaching kickboxing and boxing. Man, 6 months in and boom, packed 30 PTs a week, 7 classes.
Wow.
Packed the gym out. And it was a gym that I just started.
Yeah.
I had 20 students every class. So the owner's like, "Do you want a full-time job?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go."
Yeah.
So then I said to my dad, "Look, I'm going to do this." He's like, "All right, that's good."
Yeah. And so then when you started to find that success, like, how did that make you feel? Like, it's like, it's a pretty short window, 6 months, but like throughout that 6 months, was there ever a point where you're like, "Oh, what if this doesn't work?" Or do you always saw that there was potential?
I never, when I start something, I never have the thought of, it's not going to work. It's going to work somehow. I'm going to make it work. Yeah, I loved it. People really levitated to my way of teaching. I brought a bit of, European structure, kickboxing and the way I was taught boxing, and people loved it. So I was like, started building I started with corporate fighters.
Yeah? So you're doing like the white collar boxing?
Yeah, so just start like that, and we were just smashing people. So I was like, you know what? We can actually do the amateurs.
Yeah.
It went like that. Boom.
Yeah. So then, how did that sort of progress into becoming Barra Benavides martial arts then?
Coming here.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, there was a few fighters here already, and I just developed them even more, and we started winning titles. I made a K1 pro champion, amateur state champion. My girlfriend won 2 state championships in boxing, and that just started bringing more people wanted to work with me.
Yeah.
Alan came through.
Yep.
Alan was here the whole time.
Yep.
I was coaching Alan, so Alan brought all the MMA people to me for striking, and it was like, thanks to Alan, I'm in that industry.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was mad.
How did you find the adapting, the striking for mixed martial arts?
The funny thing is, no one knows this, but when I was growing up in Sweden, all my mates that I used to box with, they all did MMA. So they all moved to MMA. I was the only kickboxer.
Okay.
So I've been around MMA since I was 15.
Yep.
And I used to be their main stand-up sparring partner. So, and I used to do a bit of submission wrestling back in the day. So I have an understanding. I had an understanding already. That's why my striking is, I adapt it to MMA,
Yep.
Simplify it.
Yep.
So I've been around MMA since, Sweden's old in MMA. If you look back, Sweden's got big history in MMA. They're already very advanced from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was all around me.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always find, across almost every style, right, like a punch is still going to be a punch. Right, there might be some minor details or differences in terms of, how you turn the knuckles over or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, a punch is still relatively speaking a punch. And the thing that sort of develops as you have into these styles is generally the rule set, right?
Exactly.
So boxing has a specific rule set where there are legal strikes and illegal strikes. And so the way that boxers fight, with heavy head movement and the ability to sort of hinge at the waist and stay really low and get under those punches and things like that is because, they're it's only the hands. And, there are benefits to doing that, when you go into kickboxing, you can't play that style anymore because of the threat of knees, right? And so then the striking in kickboxing develops slightly different. And then likewise, Muay Thai striking is different again because of the threat of the elbows and cuts and those sorts of things.
Clinch.
Yeah, clinch, right? Yeah, clinch and sweeps. And then likewise, when you go to mixed martial arts, it's the same thing. There's the striking develops in a specific way to tailor to that rule set.
100%.
Right? I guess, a little bit curious in terms of your thoughts as to where where you see sort of the striking mixed martial arts going, in the future.
I feel like, man, it's a lot of it is back to striking, eh? People want to see guys bang it out, I like it, but it's also taking away the actual sport of MMA. It's becoming a striking sport. It's but it's good for coaches like us that are in the industry.
Yeah.
But man, there's some crazy strikers in MMA, bro. There's fighters that could easily go to boxing or go to kickboxing.
Yep.
But some guys are high level, high level. A lot of boxing coaches are getting real successful too.
Yep.
Because of the understanding of positioning in boxing. Where to stand, where to move, where to throw certain shots, where you don't throw certain shots. You know what I mean? The feints. So that's when I teach the boys. I mix the both dynamics of kickboxing and boxing. And obviously, you've seen it. It's
yielding dividends.
It's working good, bro.
Yeah. So then, when it comes to structuring your classes and things like that, what are some of the things that you like to focus on or include in the training that you feel like is a great asset to fighter development?
Obviously, footwork, and what I tell everyone is learning how to be relaxed. Relax. It's already a stressful sport, man.
Yeah.
You got to be relaxed. When you're relaxed, you see more.
Yep.
You can set up more things. You're more clear-minded. When you're always in that jittery state of mind. It's like you're not thinking clear.
Yeah.
You know, so that's my main thing. A lot of relaxed movement. You know, feints. You know, footwork. That's the base of it. It's nothing complicated.
Yep.
But relaxing is, I believe that's the main thing. Knowing how to relax. If you look at Muay Thai fighters, people, if you actually know Muay Thai and you see them, they're like this.
Yeah.
When you go to Thailand, they're all sabai, you know, they're relaxed. Where kickboxers are real like,
yeah, they want to go. Yeah.
They want to just go all the time. You look at boxers are real relaxed.
Yep.
And make great strikers. So that's what I try and implement in my style.
You mentioned Thailand before. Did you say, have you spent some time in Thailand?
Yeah. I've been there 4 or 5 times, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
So where did you go when you went to Thailand?
I used to go to this gym called Kalpatak in Rawai.
Okay.
So I had a few mates from Sweden. They used to live in Thailand.
Okay.
And train there. So I used to go there and go for 3, 4 weeks, 2 weeks. And just go there and learn, man. Spar, learn. Yeah. Just have a good time being around fighters, you know. And always picking brain, you know, for my own
development. Yeah.
What
was the what was the lifestyle like in Thailand? Like, how would you describe it?
These guys go hard, bro. Thai boxers are fucking weapons. They're guns. Like, I give it to them, man. Like, wow. Their training is crazy, bro.
Yeah.
And the gym I went to was purely Muay Thai, like traditional Muay Thai, where you're running 10Ks before, you're coming back. Every round's 5 minutes. You're doing 5 rounds on everything. After you do 2 hours of training, you're doing 200 teeps, you're doing 300 knees, you're doing your pull-ups, sit-ups. Like, insane, bro. Insane. A lot of guys that are in glory and world champions, they came through that gym, man. Great people. Met a lot of great people, you know. Some crazy people too.
Yeah.
You know. But I just loved the culture when I was there, because I never grew up with traditional Muay Thai in Sweden. It was more K1. When I fought Muay Thai, it was K1 fighting Muay Thai. So when I went to Thailand, I actually got to appreciate the art, the tradition behind it. I loved it.
Well, what would you say is like the biggest sort of differences between the K1 style and the Muay Thai style?
K1 is 3 minutes times 3.
Yep.
No elbows. No clinch. So it's basically a boxing tempo kicking fight. So it's high pace. You got to be on the guy. You're scoring. You know, there's no time to relax. Where there's one round, you know, like the Thais, they take their time and fighting 5 rounds. You know, it's a totally different sport.
Yeah,
like people try and be like totally different. It's like wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Yeah, they look the same when you're there and you're kicking, but it's another sport.
The tempo's totally different.
Yeah. A lot of Muay Thai, you know, like they're kicking you all the time, kneeing, teeps, you know, elbows, clinch. Where kickboxing is more like a technical fight. It's like just boom, boom. Yeah.
The pace is such a different pace between the two. You know, I love watching both.
Yeah, I love watching both, man. I love martial arts. I can watch taekwondo and love it. Even karate, like everything has its own craft to it.
Yeah,
you know. And to be a high level fighter, it takes time and dedication, and you know, it doesn't matter what martial art you're doing. You know.
Yeah. So then, from an influence perspective now, like, where do you sort of draw your influences from to add to your coaching repertoire?
I'm taking it back to how I was taught, and writing things down, and I've got things in my head. Working with another coach that we got here, he used to box in LA in the 70s.
Okay. With
all the big legends.
Yep.
So he's got some crazy stuff.
Yeah, wow.
So I'm always learning from him. That's what I feel like it's important as coaches too, is to being an open book and you know, and listening to, if you got an older coach, sit down and listen to him, you know, train with him, you know.
Yeah.
It's about its development, you know. So,
Yeah.
And I'm always watching stuff, bro.
Yeah.
That's what I do in my free time.
Yeah.
My missus hates it.
She's not into. Oh, she fought, right?
Yeah, no, she still fights.
Yep.
But yeah, but because she is training all the time, when she comes home, she's like
doesn't want to know about it.
Yeah, where I'm like studying it.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah.
So like I go home and I'm watching stuff all the time, bro.
My missus is like that as well, but she's like not into martial arts at all, right? Whereas every night, you know, after the kids have gone to bed, I'm on the laptop, you know, putting things together for fight studies and things like that. And yeah, she sometimes gets the shits. It's like, can you just take a night off?
Yeah, it's hard. It's addictive.
Yeah, I need to have that flow, you know? Like, I hate it when I start something and then it's like, and it's so hard for me during the day because the kids or whatever else. But then, you know, once I start, I like to just sit there and time just goes by so fast.
Yeah.
You know, I might clip up a few sequences and I'm like breaking down a couple of sequences and I look at the time like, shit, it's time to go to bed already.
Yeah.
You know, and then like to my detriment, sometimes I don't listen to myself and I just go, I'll just push through a bit longer. And then before I know it, it's midnight. And then it's like, oh, far out. Like I didn't get enough sleep last night.
Yeah.
All the kids came and disturbed me and all this sort of stuff. And
that's me every night.
it adds up, right? And then it takes away, like I feel like sleep is one of those massively underrated things in terms of recovery and mindset. You know, when 100%. you have good sleep and you're refreshed, you know, you can really attack the next day so well. Whereas like when you're down, it's because, chances are you probably didn't get enough rest.
For sure.
You just feel like shit.
100%. Rest is the best recovery, bro.
Mm. All right. I want to switch gears a little bit. I'm just a little bit curious about, you know, as you sort of get to follow Josh around and go to, you know, his fights overseas and things like that. Like I'm just curious about, you know, what's the experience like for you? You know,
for me, it's awesome, bro. It's great. It's crazy. Like I'm meeting people that like. There's a coach called Henry Hooft. Have you heard of him?
Yep.
So like I've looked up to that coach for a long time.
Sanford MMA. Yep.
Yeah, because he used to coach Tyrone Spong.
Dutch style.
Yeah, so I was like, wow, that's a coach. So when we went to Singapore, he's walking around, and I'm like, damn, like this is a coach that I've been looking up to since I was youngin'. It's just things like that, right? You just get starstruck all the time, and the whole experience is crazy, bro.
Did you get to ask him any questions?
Yeah, I spoke to him. I told him.
Yep.
I've looked up to you and stuff like that. And funny enough, after Josh fought, he's like, whatever you're doing with that kid in striking, keep doing it. I was like, fuck, really? Shit. I messaged my missus straight away. I was like, Henry Hoof, just, you know, he came up to me and he didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And he did it. And I was like, wow, crazy. To come from where you come from to be in, I never thought I was going to ever be at that level, bro. And obviously, I think the boys at Igor and stuff for believing in my skills as a coach.
They all talk very highly of you.
Yeah, and opening the doors for me like that as well, right? I got to thank them as well. And it's been great, bro. The experience is crazy. Like when we're in Singapore, you see Joanna, you see Wei Lee, you see like all the Aussie boys, like they're just walking around. You're like, damn, like it's so surreal because you see these people on TV all the time, and it's like, wow, they're actually real people though. They're so nice, they're humble, they take their time. Yeah, it's crazy.
And then I'm sure, like, you know, you start to feel a bit of that imposter syndrome, right? You're like, oh, why am I here? You know?
Yeah. You feel like I shouldn't be here. Like, I'm here with like Henry Hooft is here.
Yeah.
Like, but then I'm like, you know what? Like, the longer we go, and like after this last fight, and it's like, all right, my dream is that we want to be that team.
Yeah. Take it to the next level.
And this is what I said to Josh and to Igor, and I was like, we'll be that team, you know.
Yeah.
And when people come, the next generation come, they'll probably be looking at us, being like, oh shit, look at that.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Well, that's one of the things that's like amazing about the Australian scene, you know, versus like say the American scene. Because the American scene, you've got like these big MMA places where you go to ATT or AKA or Sanford MMA, and there's like, you know, it's a whole team of killers, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in Australia, you look at like Volkanovski out of freestyle, right? Jamie out of Central Coast. You know, like everybody's out of it. They've got their own team. You know, Robert Whittaker out of Camden Valley now.
Individuals.
Right? Yeah. And so it's like it just goes to show that there is no right or wrong way to do it, right? Yes, you can go to a big team and, you know, that might help to get you into the limelight as well. Or you can have your own team. And I feel like, you know, people often, we put like other people on a pedestal because we go, oh, you know, in America, they do it like this or whatever the case may be.
100%.
Right?
And it's like, yeah, that's what you just saying. Like, there's a lot of crap over there too. Like, we think like the grass is green on the other side, but the time is now for Australia. Like, there's some crazy little athletes coming out. You've been to the MMA fights, like the level that are coming up.
Yep.
I wasn't half as good as these kids now. You know.
Well, this is like, you know, I'm fortunate that I've done podcasts with quite a few different coaches as well, and it's like a lot of them are like, you know, we won't put our guys into fight unless they've done X, Y, and Z. Yeah,
but also you got to think this: the less people, the more attention they get here as well.
True.
Where in America, you got a floor with 50 fighters. So how are they getting personalized attention?
Yeah, true.
So yeah, there's 50 killers, but in a year they're still the same because the attention's not there.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
Where here it's like the boys are working personally with Igor, personally with me.
Yeah, it's dedicated.
I'm tweaking everything. Igor, he's a mastermind. He's tweaking everything. So it's like these kids are getting 100% of our attention.
Yeah.
Whitaker, same.
Yeah, developing so fast as a result of it, right?
Yeah. And bro, and Aussies, you know what I like about the Aussies is they're laid back. You know, like a lot of other people, they're like so... Aussies are like, yeah, you know, they chill, but when it comes to fight, they fight.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think, you know, there's something about our scene as well where it's like there's not really any bad blood, so to speak. There's no animosity. Like once somebody gets to that big stage, everybody rallies around them.
Yeah,
you know, it doesn't matter what
cool.
team you're from. Like, and, you know, at all the events, it's like, you know, you go to some of these local shows, if there's, you know, Josh is always there supporting his teammates. Jamie Malaki's always there supporting his teammates. Like, these guys are at so many of the shows that even for just like, you know, fans, right? Like, you see these guys walk around and people are like, oh wow, that's X, Y, and Z, right? Yeah. And so it's just amazing.
That's what grows the sport, bro.
Yeah.
Is that's like leading by example. That's leading by example. Being at the shows and that's giving back to the community of mixed martial arts. Yeah. Being at the shows and people are like, Josh or Jamie, they don't have to be there. No. Do you know? But they're there, so people are like, wow. Yeah. Kids are like, wow. Yeah, and that's what I want to be like. Yeah, and people are like, like if that's what they're aspiring to get to. It's 100%. Like, oh, it feels close, right? You know, and the boys always talk about, oh, you know, I fought on this show in Australia before I got to the big stage and things like that. Like, it's, you know, the shows that, you know, that we're going to for the amateurs, like they're the shows that will eventually get them to that stage if that's what they want to do. For sure, 100%. So, no, it's cool. I love it. All right, I think let's call it there. Let's do it. All right, but yeah, pleasure to have you on. Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you for having me, man. That was a good conversation. Yeah. Do you have any sponsors that you want to shout out or anything like that? Or no, man, I just want to shout out all the boys, legends, Igor. Yep. My coach back in Sweden, Pablo. Hey. Tack så mycket för allting, brorsan. And yeah, man, keep doing what you're doing. All right, beautiful. Thanks, Thank you. Sick, man.